look at the sales process as a puzzle. And there's 5 pieces to the puzzle. Leads, and I think Brian talked about leads enough. I don't think you need to hear about leads, but leads are the lifeblood of any business. If you don't have leads, obviously, your sales are going to suffer, and if your sales suffer, your production suffers, and then the guys don't have work, and things go really bad. So we're not really going to talk about leads today. But just know, I mean, you heard about it enough, and I think that, we beat that horse. But what we do need to know is that the second piece of the puzzle is basic buying motives. What are the basic buying motives of your customer? And this is, it doesn't matter whether this is residential or commercial, and we're talking more residential right now, but this applies to commercial roofing as well. Now, there's also what's called the power buying motive. Now, the power buying motive is the reason why an owner, customer, will choose you regardless of your price. And then there's differentiation and sales presentations, which is the 4th piece, and the last piece is a zero pressure closing. There's lots of sales processes out there that I'll talk to you about. There's 38 different ways to close a sale. There's all kinds of things you can do to manipulate a homeowner into signing a contract. We're not going to talk about any of those. To me, what I learned and what I still believe is true, it's even more true, it's more true today than it's ever been, is that closing is just the natural conclusion to doing everything else correctly. If you do everything else right, you don't need any gimmicks to close a sale. You just have to ask for it. That's all it takes. But you have to do everything else on the front end right. And then you don't have to have any gimmicks as to how to close a sale. So the object here is to generate low-cost leads that are high quality in both residential and commercial, differentiate your offer from the competition so you become the preferred roofing contractor regardless of your price. And Brian talked about that, about it's not about price, and we'll get into a little bit about that. Winning projects at substantially higher prices, and stop wasting your time with callbacks. So those are the objectives that I have in this talk, and hopefully you can pull a couple things out of this. Now, if you want they're videoing this, so if you want this video later to look back, if you can. If you want the PowerPoint, talk to Juan Carlos, and I'm sure he can get you the note slides to all of this, and you can certainly drop a card, and I can get you any information you need if you miss anything. So this is the problem with most contractors. Most contractors are doing what we call the juggling act, right? Most owners. You're a salesman, you're a manager, project scheduler, customer service, revenue collector, purchasing agent, add on a whole bunch of other things. This is a lot of owners in this room. You're not alone. This is what a lot of people do. Unfortunately, it's not a good way to run your business because you're always going to be working in your business doing all these things, and you're never going to get ahead. So you've got to figure out a way to get out of this juggling act. The other problem is peaks and valleys. Every trade has its cycles. Now, you don't have that sort of problem as much in the southern Florida area with the weather, but you still have a cycle. There's always a cycle in every contracting business. Either there's too much work and it's difficult to get all the work done, or there's so little work that you can't get a job no matter how you price the job. I mean, have you found yourself in that position before? I know I found myself in that position a lot for years and years. It's either, feast or famine. Everything's going great, but then you can't get it all done, or it doesn't matter what you do, you just can't buy a job. It seems like you can't give it away. The idea is to kind of level those peaks and valleys out, because if you can level those peaks and valleys out, you can keep a stable workforce, you can make more money, you can become more efficient, you become more profitable. Sometimes there's too little profit. This is another big problem that most contractors have. There's not enough money at the end of the month, and that's a problem, because you start thinking, is this really worthwhile? Is this business? What am I doing here? I talk to a lot of contractors, and it amazes me that they stay in business for the money they're earning. I mean, this is a hard business, especially roofing. This is not an easy business. And I don't know why anybody would do it for just a little bit of money. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So you got to figure out a way to make more money, because that's really, it makes a lot of problems go away when you have money. Now, a lot of us are faced with roadblocks. As salespeople, these are the things that I know that I hear. And if you heard other things, let me know. But I hear, sorry, we're going with someone else. We still have to get another price. You're going to need to lower your price. Price is too high. I'll take the bid to my boss. Sorry, we can't afford it, or we'll call you back. These are all obstacles that salespeople hit every day. And I'm telling you that there's ways around those obstacles. It's not difficult. But those obstacles lead to a lot of frustration. And I know that I've been frustrated. Before I joined CCN, and there were times even when I first started this whole journey, that I would leave my office, I'd walk outside, and I just felt like, take me now. I mean, what am I doing? I mean, what is this all about? I mean, this is crazy. I mean, it drove me nuts. I would look at the secretary and I'd say, listen, you know what? I'm leaving for a couple hours. If I don't come back, just shut everything down, put an ad in the paper, sell everything, give it away. I don't really care. This isn't worth it. And if you've been there, and I'm sure there's many of you that have been there, you may not want to admit it, but I'm sure most of us have been there. And frankly, that's how a lot of us have gotten into business for ourselves, when you think about it. Most people who are owners of roofing companies especially don't grow up going, I want to own a roofing company. I want to be a roofer. I mean, maybe second and third generation people do, and most of those don't even want to do it. I mean, people I talk to, they say, are you going to leave the business to your son or your daughter? It's child abuse. Wouldn't want to do that. I mean, my son might do it. I don't know. I mean, I hope he doesn't, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a rough business. And it leads to a lot of frustration. I mean, a lot of pressure. There were years I would come home and just vent to my wife. Like, what, is this really worth it? I mean, now looking back, I'm glad I went through what I went through, but it would have been so much easier had I met the people at CCN in 1992 or 1993. I could have avoided so much headache and hassle. So I'm going to give you a little statistic. Now, this may be your company, this may not be your company, but these are based on the largest roofing manufacturer's data. Okay, so these are pretty accurate numbers. The average gross profit of a residential roofing contractor, this is not a commercial roofing contractor, this is a residential roofing contractor, is 23%. Now, when we define gross profit, we're defining gross profit as what's left over after materials and labor. If this is you, you're bankrupt, you just don't know it. You're living on cash flow. And this happened in 2009. The cash flow stopped because the work stopped, and all of a sudden, people went, oh, crap, I got all these bills, what do I do? And they went out of business. Now, in the commercial world, it gets even worse. I mean, it really does get worse. And when you think about it, most people that do work for big contractors, if you're working on margins like that, I mean, they have a thing called, what's it called? That the end of the job, you don't get all your money. Retainage, right, retainage. It's usually like 10%, right? Yeah, well, but the fact of the matter is it's real. So if you're working on 23%, well, let's say 25% gross profit. Let's play with this number for a second. 25% gross profit. Your overhead, now I have yet to find, and I analyze financials for thousands of contractors. I've yet to find a legitimate contractor. Now, I have to strive to say legitimate. This is a real company that has real employees, has a real place of business, has real insurance, that doesn't play games, it's not cheating, that doesn't spend a minimum of 17% overhead. Most spend 20 to 25% in their overhead costs. So let's just say it's 20%. So at 25% gross profit, if you knock off 20%, you're down to 5%. The guy's holding 10% that he's never paying you. So best case scenario is you're losing 5% and you still haven't paid yourself any money. How is that a good business model? In what world is that a good business model? According to NRCA statistics, the average roofing contractor nets out 2 to 3% on the bottom line. Now, I don't know how they net out 2 to 3% based on these numbers, but that's what they're saying. 2 to 3%. You go invest in a Fortune 500 company and see what their bottom lines are. If any public company said that we strive to earn 2 or 3%, they'd be bankrupt overnight. Their stock price would tumble. Every analyst would say sell, 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 because most companies strive for 20%. Most public companies are looking for 20%. McDonald's is at 22%. But yet, somehow contractors feel guilty about making a profit, or think it's okay that they make 3 or 4% or 2 or 3%. It makes no sense. And most owners don't pay themselves any money. That 2 or 3% is what they pay themselves. So don't confuse what you pay yourself with profit. What you pay yourself is a wage, not a profit. What's left over at the bottom at the end of the year, that's profit. So most people get that wrong. By the way, this is a real easy way to keep employees. If you show employees all these numbers, most employees, because let's face it, your employees, they see you do a $10,000, $20,000 job, they think you're making $10,000 or $20,000. They don't know that there's all these things called utilities and rent and insurance and truck payments and taxes and payroll expenses and all those things. So if you shared with them all of that, I mean, I did. We sat down when I first joined CCN. I would hide the numbers because I didn't want my employees. I thought my employees would run if they knew we were making money. But I realized that they thought we were making way more than we were actually making. So when I showed them what we were making, I had people coming to me saying, why are you doing this? I mean, why are you still in business? I'm like, what do you mean, why? I mean, this is how I earn a living. He said, well, this is crazy. I don't want to do this. I don't want to leave. Because most of us came from a disgruntled place. When I said, we never were born to be a roofing contractor, we were working for somebody. We got upset for some reason. We weren't happy. And we decided, I can do this better. I know that's how I got into it. I got out of college. I didn't say, geez, I want to be a roofing contractor. I was a mortgage banker, for God's sakes. And I just decided, I wasn't making enough money as a mortgage banker, so I'll go back to what I did in high school, which was worked for a roofing company, and I decided to get a job on the weekends, and during the mornings when I wasn't doing mortgage banking, I worked on a roofing crew and ran a roofing crew for a company in DC. And I looked around and I thought, these guys are idiots. They have no idea what they're doing, and they're making so much money. I can do this better. So 6 months later, I quit my mortgage job, I quit that company, and I opened up. And that's how most contractors get into business. They get pissed at their boss, and they leave, and they figure, I can do this myself, and they get a few jobs, and most of them are good workers. They do good quality work, and they don't know how to sell the job. They kind of look at it and go, well, my boss charged, I don't know, $250 a square or $300 a square. I don't have the office or anything like that. I don't need to charge that kind of money, so I'll charge a little bit less. And they get the jobs because they're basically doing it for free, and at cost. They do the work. They do a good job because they're good craftsmen. And that leads to getting more referrals and more jobs, but then all of a sudden they get too busy, so they gotta start hiring their friends. And that's when the fun starts. You know, because then they hire their friends or they hire other people to do the work, and they're not supervising it. And then the leaks start occurring, and then the people start getting pissed, and then the bad reviews start getting online, and then everybody starts going crazy, and then 3 months later they're out of business. I mean, national statistics are this, and this is government statistics. 80% of all non-franchised businesses, 80% fail within 5 years, go bankrupt. Of the ones that remain, 90% of those fail in the next 5 years. So that means there's about 2% that survive after 10 years. That's the harsh reality. So if you're not doing everything right, chances are you're going to be out of business. So you've got to have the systems and processes in place.